Welcome to Eye on the Illini. This is Mike Cagley here with Kedric Prince. We'll have Brad Sturdy dropping in later on. This was a game that really started off a little bit threateningly. We got to see the Illini wake up and really dish out some punishment, kid.
Mike, that's what they did. And for the first time in a long time, I don't remember the last time I can say this honestly. It was a boring game. And I think the players played like that. They just played through the level of competition, which wasn't good. That's not a good thing. But think of how good and how scary this team really is. They missed how many bunnies and layups tonight? They could have put up another 100 points. Jake Davis missed a couple. I was glad that Coach Underwood got upset about some of it, but just the depth. And finally, I have to admit, this team is good. When you don't have arguably one of your best players, Ibisic was average tonight. Kylan Boswell was looking to distribute, and you still won by over 30. What an amazing group of talented boys.
I got to be honest with you. If I'm Penn State fan, I'm a little worried that Shrewsbury got replaced by a guy who doesn't have the coaching chops that he had.
No, I don't. Here's the one difference: the team doesn't have the competitive edge. Shrewsbury's teams fought hard and they put the boxing gloves on. They would have lost to Illinois tonight because Illinois is just a better team, but they wouldn't have hung up. Illinois wouldn't have hung 91 points on the board against them, and I can pretty much assure you that they would have scored more than 52 points.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Here's an interesting Illini stat and notes. Tonight marked the third time since 1938 and 39 that three Illini have scored at least 20 points in the same game. Now, it's only been in the recent past. It was 2016 against Rutgers. You had three guys scoring that much.
Who was it?
2024 against Minnesota last year, and this year at Penn State. So two out of the three of those times that happened, it was Brad Underwood teams. So part of it's obviously the evolution of basketball. And then the other part is the coaching that they receive and the focus on going straight at looking to score and playing that aggressive style. We'll take a couple comments here early on because I do think there's some interesting thing. I'll be honest with you. I don't put a lot of I'm different than most people. I don't put a lot of emphasis on body language and facial expressions because guys like Dan Marino, when they competed, they just spent the whole game yelling at everybody. Yelling at everybody is not generally a great thing, and he won plenty. And then I remember Juice Williams because everybody would go, Juice looks like he's not confident, or Juice looks like he's upset, or Juice. And I'm like, Juice just looks like Juice. He's just coming off the field, man. And so I don't really worry about that. I do think what you have with Riley is he's a tall, thin guy, and he reminds me a little bit of Kevin Durant, who dribbles the ball straight up and down. And Durant had to figure out when he faced better athletes each time he went up from high school into college and then college to the NBA. He had to figure out how he keeps the shorter, more athletic, stronger guys from getting underneath him and causing him problems. And maybe there's a little bit of time that Riley's going to have to figure that out as well. Ked, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Mike, and I have to agree with Fedigator here. Sorry to disagree with you, but body language does matter to me just a little bit. I don't see a lot of that from him. I see frustration, and
Yeah.
I said this at halftime. He keeps falling away from contact.
Yep.
He refuses to go in to initiate the contact. If you're going to
He did
fall
on
in,
the one time I was happy he did it, Ked. Sorry to interrupt you, was when he went down the lane and they got the flagrant one. That he was just like, I'm gonna go to the hoop and didn't let he just made a basketball play and it was so much better.
sure. But then the second half, he was short. He did another one. He made a nice spin dribble. The thing I like about him, he can get to the rim and he handles the ball really nice.
Yep.
Just go up and attack it all the time, or if you're not going to kick it out. And it's tough because that's the one thing I think that would get him more baskets. It would get him to the free throw line more. It would get him some confidence. And like I said at halftime too, when he knocks down the 3-0 shot, watch the bench. They know he's pressing. We can sit here and pretend that he's not and all this coaches speak. I'm not into that stuff. He is. He's frustrated. And he should be. And I understand that. But he's going to come out of it. I don't and he's definitely able to play at this level. He's proven it. Right now, my biggest thing is I'm really impressed with how well he can handle the basketball at 6'8". Just imagine. That's why I guess the scouts like him. You think he's going to go through the rest of his career not making shots like that? It's not going to happen. He's obviously going to get stronger, which is natural because he's going to become older. He's not built like Morez. They're just two different body types. But again, I think that's something he needs to really focus on. The shots are falling. Like I said to you, there was a couple he shot in the corner, right? They rolled in and rolled out. He's not that far off.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. He's not missing by wide margins. And then the other thing that people are talking about is Andy Katz talking about Ty Rogers is taking a year off to get to be a better point guard so that he can take over for KJ next year. It's a there's no relationship to what's happened with Ty Rogers versus Sincere Harris. Two different people. They had two different assistant coaches that were here that brought them in. But I don't want to let my Sincere experience affect Ty, but it seems a little bit of a stretch. You see the red shirt, you almost think Ty probably won't be back next year, but I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see if Katz his reporting is accurate or not.
Mike, I want to comment on this. And this, obviously, I work for IlliniGuys, and I want everybody listening to subscribe to our website, to our company. But I want all the listeners out there to understand this. If you really want to know what's going on within the programs, you have to subscribe to people or follow people like us. We are in the trenches. This is no disrespect to Andy Katz or to John Ross Sr., any of the national guys. But if they get the press releases like we do. And if the press release says Ty Rogers is going to redshirt because he wants to work on his game, Andy Katz is going to report that. It's people like me and Brad and the other local guys and Matt Stevens who know the ins and outs. I'm really sorry. And Andy Katz did exactly what everyone else is going to report. But if you know the ins and outs of the program and talk to people, I'm not saying that Andy Katz is wrong. So please don't put those words in my mouth. But you're not going to get the in-depth details. And here's how I know that, Illini fans. Some of those national guys will ask us. If you don't think I've been asked by national guys who follow recruiting, on my Twitter page, I'm not looking, or X page, for people to be my friend and subscribe to me. But I have over 21,000 people who follow me. That means there's a lot of national guys who do or who send me messages. Because they report it doesn't mean that they know accurately what's going on. Sorry about that.
Yep.
That rant, Mike.
And I'll throw in something. We do a couple radio shows, and Andy has been kind enough to come on our big sports radio show, our Big Ten show. And when he makes a promise, he's kept it. There have been times that he is literally the only time he had free to pre-record a segment might be 11:30 at night, and if he promises to be on, he makes it there. So I'm not trying to throw any rocks, but you always want to be reporting things as accurately as possible, and we'll see if that story is accurate or not. Only way we'll know is go into the future.
And he's a good guy, Mike. Sorry, he's a really good guy.
Yeah,
yeah, he will respond to you. He's very respectful, and to a point, I think he's a big Illinois fan. If you look at all the national meetings every year, so they will always leave Illinois off. He will somehow find a reason why Illinois should be in the top 10, top 15, or at the top of the Big Ten. So I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah. So he's at least willing to take a look at it. There's other people. There's guys like Seth Davis that I don't even know if he could tell you much about the Big Ten other than the name of the teams. It is what it is. Let's go down and take a look at this because I think there was some statistics that were pretty interesting. Morez, 20 points, 11 rebounds, so another double for him. Fantastic for him. I'm so happy to see that. Then we also have, obviously, you had Trey White, who I got to be honest, Ked.
Say it, Mike, because I'm going to say it if you don't.
He's damn near the MVP of this team the way he's been playing the last couple of weeks. Go ahead. Tell me why you were going to say that, Ked.
Mike, because all the attention is on number 32. It's on KJ because he's the NBA guy. He's the lottery pick. He's the focal point. He's the guy that every NBA analyst, every play-by-play guy that comes on, that's who they talk about. And they talk about Ivica. They talk about Will Riley. They talk about being Rickhouse. But look at Trey White's stats. This guy's been over 15, 16 points the last 4 or 5 games, and he, to me, right now, next to Boswell, is the best. Colin Boswell, excuse me, is the best on-ball defender. Trey White is dangerous, and offensively and defensive, and he rebounds. People felt when they recruited him, like I said before in the past, he was a guy that was just a throw-in body because he went to Louisville and he lost. He transferred from USC. But I'm telling you, Trey is solid. He had 20 points tonight, 7 to 12 shooting, 5 for 5 in the free throw, and he has 7 rebounds. He is quietly getting it done, but all the attention is going to everyone else. If you don't have a Trey White, some of these wins wouldn't be there. And I'm just really sorry. This team is good. The ceiling is high for them, and you cannot overlook him. Right now, everybody's excited, and me too, for Ben Rickhouse. But Morez Johnson, a double. But nobody ever really gives this kid credit. And I'm going to tell you, if he ever gets in foul trouble or he struggles again, you're going to see something different with his team because he is quietly getting it done, Mike.
He was pressing early on when he started here. And now I think he's found out that it's okay to have a mid range game. And he is certainly starting to assert himself. And he's playing with a confidence that he should have after playing at USC, after playing at Louisville. He's earned his bones, so to speak. And I think getting him out on the court, there's times when I think he looks at things and says, "We're cold from the three. I'd better do something." And I have been totally floored the last 4, 5, 6 games, how effective he is. Now we talk about Rickhouse. He was within one board of having a double himself at 21 points, 9 rebounds, 5 for 9 from the three. And then the nice thing about that, he was 3 for 6 inside the three. So he didn't limit himself just to 3-point shots.
Mike, who said it? Getting him some easy baskets, get his confidence going, get him a couple layups to get to the free throw line. You and I both said it. I'm not that they're listening to us. My point is, this is what I said about Will Riley, what I would do for him, and it worked for Ben. You made a comment about Trey White early in the season. That was a guy trying to find his role on the team. There's 2 players, Kylan Boswell and Trey White, just said, forget it. We're just going to play basketball. We're not going to come out here and overthink things. And you've seen the light turn on with both of those guys.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I do think that is something that keeps him he's rocking and rolling in terms of getting his mind, and he's really allowing himself to play without pressing. And when you can do that, he's just out there having fun. And I thought Morez looked relaxed today as well. And while Conan, I want to call him Niederman because all the 80s movies, but Niederhouse, I don't. He wasn't the greatest offensive player, but I thought defensively he was decent. And Morez caused a lot of problems for anybody. And I will tell you, Ked, you know what I loved is I could pull about 4 or 5 times out where he got a rebound with somebody on his back because he blocked him out. But as good as Morez is, with all the talent, he still blocks people out. And so many guys just go to the ball and occasionally get beat there and they can't figure it out. You can tell that Ty Slaughter and the guys at Mean Streets really gave him fundamentals in terms of defense and in terms of rebounding that are paying off and paying dividends now.
Mike, Sean Morris is an old school basketball player, and he did a lot of talking tonight that made me think, gosh, do I want to coach again or not? Because here's what you get from Morris Johnson. You heard Sean Morris say he jumps off 2 feet. People don't do that anymore. Okay, they just don't. If you want to know why Morez Johnson, I'm going to give a cheat code to every Illinois person listening to this podcast. If you want to know why Morez Johnson is such a great rebounder, he is the one guy, maybe Trey White, that when they go get a rebound, they get it with 2 hands. Most guys get a rebound with 1 hand or go after it with 1 hand. And if you're not strong enough, it gives the other person or the defender a chance to knock the ball away. That's why you don't lose the ball with Morez Johnson. Here's the cheat code. You want to know why Morez blocks shots? I used to teach this to my kids all the time. If you're a right-handed shooter and you want to block shots on your defense, block it with your left hand. If you watch when he blocks shots, 8 times out of 10, Perez gets it with his left hand. And here's why. If you stand face to face with if you're on offense and the person is trying to block your shot left-handed, your left-handed reach is longer than your right hand. Perez has been taught all those things. That's why he blocks shots the way he does at the peak of the shot. And that's why when he gets a rebound, you're not taking it from him because he grabs it with two hands. There's so many guys on this team, I'm not going to call their names out, that gets it with one, that will go get a rebound with one hand. That's why Perez is so effective at it. He is a throwback basketball player who looks like the Hulk out there, and he's 18 years old. He's just physically big, and he's a throwback. You don't see guys play like that anymore.
No, and you got to go back to what out of Mean Streets. You and I both, had the fun of coaching against teams like Mean Streets and Mac Irvin Fire, and down in Dallas, we go up against the good teams, the Showtimes, and all the big teams down here, and Georgia Stars and the Atlanta Celtics. And I'm telling you that Mean Streets, particularly on the defensive end, may be the best coach AAU program there is.
What a lot of AAU coaches bad rap for how they play. I coached high school basketball and I also coached AAU basketball. I didn't forget how to coach, and there was a light switch when I left high school to AAU basketball. You still have to teach fundamentals. And Mean Streets with Ty Street and Tim Anderson, who's an Illinois assistant basketball coach, they do. They teach fundamentals. And not that they're the only team, but it really does matter. And if you look at Ty Rogers, he's fundamentally sound. So that is a good program to come from. It's a program that teaches you all the little things like I just mentioned. And I'm just happy. There's been so many fans, Mike, that have wanted to see Perez play and see his upside and his potential. And you know what? Since we're on the subject with him, tonight was the first time, whether I was in person or on TV, I saw him smile tonight. Because he's not a guy that shows a lot of facial expressions, but tonight I finally saw him smile.
Yeah, that was good to see. And like I said, he's a heck of a player. And I know we wax a little philosophic, but when you watch these guys play, when you're out scouting and what we do, the point of you see him perform with that effort and intensity and focus tournament after tournament, whether you're watching him in Chicago, I'm in Memphis, or I'm in Dallas, or it's just that consistency that's so good. And I think it's been a real tribute to him as what he's been able to do. The other one is I do know with KJ, we just know there was some sort of wrist injury and there was some swelling on his left forearm, and you could tell in pictures and stuff, it was very visible that it was red. And I don't know if that's from icing or heat or just it was red. I don't know, but obviously it seemed like KJ thought he could go, but the Illini coaches wanted to be cautious. Any thoughts on that, kid?
It's better to be cautious because tonight he could have injured it and made it worse. You and I talked at halftime. USC is going to present a challenge to Illinois. They're big, and they're not. No team's going to roll over in the Big Ten because for the people out there listening, in case you didn't know, there's 18 teams in the Big Ten. I believe only 15 go to the Big Ten tournament. These teams are going to be fighting. There's no gimme wins on the table. So every game matters at this point. So no one's going to just say, hey, okay, you know what? We're just going to let you beat us because we're Illinois. Mike, just real quick here. I want to talk about Kylan Boswell and Draymond Gibbs Longhorn real quick
Yep.
because KJ was out of the game tonight. I thought Kylan, who's handled the ball a lot, did a good job. But I also have to give credit to Draymond Gibbs Longhorn. He doesn't handle the basketball very much, but tonight in 20 minutes of action, I thought he did a really good job. And I have to give kudos to Kylan because if you want to know what it's like to miss a player KJ stature. Kylan Boswell, he was 2 for 8 from the field, but get this, he had 5 rebounds and he had 6 assists. He logged a lot of minutes. He played 34 minutes. And having said that, he was effective rebounding and getting the ball out. One of the reasons I think Illinois is such an outstanding team is the way they rebound. Who Rickhouse had 9, Boswell had 5, Riley had 6 rebounds, and B6 and White both had 7. And then you had Big Perez with 11. I mean, they really rebound. I mean, they make it tough. And the good thing about the guards rebound, Brad Underwood has always made his guards rebound. And I don't think people don't understand how important it is because, and I remember him forcing it with Io. He kept saying, Io, if you want to be complete, you have to go rebound. In his second year, he made that a cautious effort to go out to go get rebounds.
Yeah, and I do think Illinois has had some spectacular rebounders headed up by Kofi Coburn, but this team across the board might be the best rebounding team we've seen in a while from the Illini, and Underwood's a good coach for getting his team to rebound.
He is. And one of the things I tweeted out, Mike, and I know you're the host on this show, but let's be honest, I'm going to take off my orange shades. How good do you think this team really is? A lot of people nationally, and I just talked about them covering Illinois, but do you really believe this team could go as far as last year's team did? And if so, why?
I actually believe they could go without injury, so already we're in a little bit of a risk area. But on a night that this team is hitting, this team has more shooters than any Illini team I can remember for quite some time. And if they are all hitting, they could play with anybody. Now, you want to see Ivicic move around a little better than he is right now. And you want to see Morez get some minutes and not, he got another one of those phantom fouls. But again, this team, when they're hitting, they can stretch you out. And now all of a sudden, it's like playing the Golden State Warriors, where you've got your whole team playing at 21 feet. And now the lane's wide open, which opens up for drives. And it also, as you said, the playing from out there, it gets you all sorts of crazy rebounds. I think they could potentially, on the right night, they could beat last year's team.
Yeah, and one of the things, like you just mentioned, spreading the floor, that's why Trey White is so effective. And Kylan Boswell. Think of how many times both of those two players get to the basket, Mike, and they do it with ease. And then you got the mini booty ball action from Ben Humrickhouse. He's not as good at it as the master was last year, but point being, the floor is spread. And that's what Brad really wanted. And kudos to him and his coaching staff. I heard someone mention this the other day, and I can't take credit for it. I forget who it was. This guy lost 80% of his scoring, built a brand new roster. They were in the final eight last year, and they have put together a better team than last year. That's coaching. That's just being up with the times and not being afraid and being stuck in your ways. And he's not afraid. If you look at their non-conference schedule, he said when he got here, he wasn't afraid to play people. They're going to play Duke, which everybody knows about. I give him credit. And he wants to challenge his team. And they are better now than what they were when they played Tennessee. No question about it. If they were to play Tennessee today at home, Tennessee would have two losses because they got beat last night to Florida. But point being, this team is better now.
Yeah, I agree. And that is one trait of an Underwood team. They generally are, barring getting hurt, they're generally much better at the end of the season than they were at the beginning. And that's exactly what you're supposed to do as a coach. But people don't understand basketball is the longest season, and you got to keep those guys going, and it's a grind. And Underwood has managed to do that very significantly. Um, Now the other thing we're gonna bring up here. So I'm not certain that the book's out on Will Riley. I just think some guys need different times to develop. And you said 2 weeks ago Morez was going to be a really good player, and Ked and I said that 4 years ago.
I like the comparison, though. I like the Joel
Yeah.
Embiid comparison. I love that.
I just hope he plays a little more often than Joel does.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so that's where we definitely would like to. Again, I enjoy the back and forth. I do think the other thing I think I saw tonight that I appreciated was even the short stints of time that Jake Davis was in there. He came in. He got called for being out of bounds with his foot. That was a big time hustle rebound. Those are the type of plays when you're in there for 12 minutes, you get 3 rebounds. That's the type of effort that Underwood wants. And I thought it was really interesting that maybe he's starting to hone in on those guys better on the recruiting trail because he seems to be really focused on the guys who want to play the style he wants to play.
You're going to play hard for him. You're going to compete for him, or you won't play. It was really funny, but not funny when Jake missed that layup. Oh my gosh. And I know the players, which was Morez Johnson and Kerry Booth, were sitting on the bench, and Brad jumped up and started yelling at them. I know as a player, I used to think, Coach, I'm not even in the game. Why are you yelling at me, dude? But he was frustrated because that's when you're just not mentally into the game because you knew you were going to win the game. Great teams, not good teams, great teams, they would have finished some of those layups. And the one, I think they missed three in a row. And the one guy who made it after that was the guy you and I talked about, probably the MVP of the season, was Trey White. So when you have games like that, when you're not just focused, and it was quiet. Oh, I want to say this too. I was thinking about this before we got on the air. I want to give Illinois fans credit. I've watched college basketball every day. I love it, regardless of what conference it is. And I've seen some of these arenas, and they're starting to become empty. The State Farm Center is never like that. The people will drive. I have coworkers who will get up, who will drive. This game was at 8 o'clock at night, and it's 10:52 right now. Go to work the next day at 1 o'clock in the morning to support this team. So kudos to the Illinois fans. I love seeing the State Farm Center full because when you watch some of these other arenas, when I watch even in the Big Ten, which is traditionally one of the best conferences in the world when it comes to attendance, it's starting to dwindle a little bit. But the State Farm Center is still packed, and I love that for the fans, and it's good for the players.
Just win, baby.
This is the run my own business dream. This is the colleges paid for dream. This is the retire early dream. This is Busey, where your dreams and possibilities become moments through trusted guidance and expertise, through lifelong relationships. Because we're here to help you achieve the life you've always envisioned.
I'll throw in a little plug here. I think it's interesting to hear from experts and people who aren't from the Illini. And if you're interested in Ant Wright, who has a really nice Twitter presence, and he does a great job of doing anywhere from 30-second to 3.5-minute breakdowns on offense and defense. He does a really good job. He came on, of course, former Michigan Wolverine. He came on to my Heat Checks and Hail Marys and had some very interesting things to say about the Illinois program and Coach Underwood that I thought was, you're hearing it from a guy who's not an Illinois orange and blue point of view. I thought that was really interesting. And if you ever want to do that, you can go to the Heat Checks and Hail Marys on our IlliniGuys.com channel on YouTube, or you can go to your podcast subscriber, however you prefer it. Ant gives us some really good insight, and I thought that was something to talk about. Now, next up, you brought it up, USC at Illinois, and USC's got a big lineup. I still think they've got a lot to learn about the Big Ten, but if you don't bring it against these guys, they're going to cause you some problems.
Well, the good thing about USC, they competed tonight against Indiana, and it's a tough. This is their Midwest road trip, as we call Illinois when they were out there. It was their West Coast road trip. It's going to be tough, and it's 11 o'clock game. It's tough for them because the turnaround is not as quick. Excuse me, the turnaround's quick for them. What I want to see Illinois do is the great teams. I remember the one team I knew out of all the teams, whether it was '89, last year's team, the 2004 team that went to the national championship game. The one thing I knew about that team was when they played, it didn't matter who it was. They went out right away. If they could put up 50 points on you in the first 10 minutes, they tried to do that. That's what I want to see Illinois do. I want to see them do that to USC Saturday because they have some tough games coming up. They have to go to Indiana. Michigan State is going to be a war because let's face it, you can look at what you want, and if the national people are listening today, and it may change a week from now, but the best three teams in the Big Ten right now are Illinois, Michigan, and Michigan State. And so you're going to have a road trip where you're going to get to go to Michigan State, and that's going to be a tough game for them.
Yep. And now we got Brad Sturdy from In the Car after covering the game and then going back and interviewing coaches and players. Brad, the question that comes up, what are we to make from KJ's injury?
Yeah, so he had been limited in the past 2 days in practice, and so I think what happened is after they go through their shoot around earlier today, then they came back and they have a little workout, and he had some inflammation and soreness from it. It evidently happened at Washington, as I understand it, and then but he doesn't have prognosis, hasn't talked to the doctor yet, so we won't find out probably won't know until Friday what his status is going to be for Saturday. But if he's going to miss a game, Saturday's probably the game he needs to miss because they should be able to beat USC without him. But it doesn't sound like it's a long-term thing, more of just a few days type thing.
Yeah, something that they just don't want him to injure worse. So you keep him out of it. Okay. So what are your impressions? We talked a little bit about this is the third Illini trio to score 20 points in the same game in the history of the Illini program, at least since the late 30s. Trey White has turned himself into kind of that guy when they need something. He's that guy. What were your thoughts watching this game?
First thing I would say, I thought the defense was spectacular. They got Penn State to do exactly what they wanted them to do. They got them to take tough pull-up twos with contested people. I thought that Ivasic and Johnson defended the rim, just affected every shot around the rim. Even Humrickhouse did a good job of that. But I just thought the defense was as good as you can be. So Penn State scored, according to this stat, it was 0.648 points per possession. It was the worst, or least efficient offensive performance for them since December 1st of 2010. You're talking that's not 15 years, right? So it's really amazing what this defense has become, considering what they had, considering everybody's new. So that was my first takeaway. The defense was elite. I thought offensively, they started a little slow trying to figure out what they were going to do. It was 11-5. Just about 6 minutes into the game or so, 6-7 minutes into the game, and then they scored 86 points over the last 30 plus. Just great offensively, and a large part of it, but they didn't even shoot the ball well. But when you can dominate the offensive glass the way they did, and you took care of the ball, and I know they finished with 14 turnovers, but many of those were late after the game was over. I think they had 5 or 6 at halftime. I think it was 5. So this is the kind of, you're going to do that. If you dominate the offensive glass, it's hard for teams to get stops. And I thought their offensive rebounding was just excellent. And then you're starting to see why Ben Humrickhouse was so coveted, why they love Trey White. You mentioned him. I think he's been great. He just does it at the end of the game. Oh, Trey White has 20. Oh, good for him. Good job. And you don't even know. You're just like a quiet 20, and then. Marez Johnson is just a fantastic freshman. I think he's probably a little underrated by people. He's so good. We've talked about it many times. He affects the game so much. Getting better about figuring out how not to foul. Got another tough one tonight, but overall he's getting much better. And the one thing I'll say is Kyle Boswell was fantastic, right? How about his really controlled the game? I know he had some turnovers, but I thought he was great defensively, and just when you don't have basically played the first, I think it was 32 minutes of the game before he took a break. Really impressive from him. He looked like the elite point guard in the first half. The guy just got his team, made plays for his guys, got him set up, did everything, and then at the end of the game.
I'll tell you what, another guy, Brad, that I want to talk about, which he was great offensively, and I'm not too embarrassed to admit this. I have to give Ben Humrickhouse credit, not just for his offense. Teams are not abusing him in the post like they were early in the season. He is walled up. Teams have tried to do it. Penn State tried to take him in the post side a couple times. He blocked a couple shots. He made it tough for them. This, to me, people ask Kedric, Brad, or Mike, or Matt, do the coaches watch film? Hell yeah, they're being paid millions of dollars. They're not stupid. They know, and I give them credit because for the last few games, starting at Oregon, not just because he shot the ball, Ben makes it tougher now. You're not able to just go down there and just put him on the block and the spin cycle and just score on him. He is making it difficult. This team is growing up right before our eyes. Yes, offensively, they're doing well. We talked about the stars. You mentioned Kyle Boswell. We talked about him earlier, but he had 5 rebounds and 5 assists or something like that, Brad. There's so many little things that this team can do that there's so many different options and weapons. It's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. Anything, Brad, that you saw, Ivisic seems to be moving a little slower. Is he nursing any type of thing, or is it just a little bit of fatigue and getting used to the schedule and the play here in the U.S.?
I think there's something there, a little bit of a nagging thing. I don't think it's anything serious. I think he's just, and then I think also getting used to it. But I thought I thought defensively he was really good.
Yeah.
Protecting the rim. The other thing that they did tonight, Penn State likes to blitz that ball screen and make that guard give it up.
Yep.
And then so what Illinois countered it with was the short roll. And they had Merez did some really good things, but Ivisic passed well out of that short roll. He was able to get that short roll and just spray it and find guys open. And that was a really good idea, good plan defensively for what they wanted to do. I thought I was impressed with that. And at the end of the day, I think it's one of those things where they're so versatile with those two guys at the 5 spot. And you saw them play a little bit together and really impressive. They looked really good. And Ivisic continues to rebound, and he's going to have games when he's going to score a bunch. Underwood told him there was a time, it was early in the game, and he got the ball in the post, and he had a guy who was like 5 inches shorter than him, and he just backed him, and they kicked it out. And Brad told him, go score. You got to go score that ball. And I think that's just his mindset is more like facilitate, play, just move the ball. He's not really a guy who demands the ball. And Kofi, they played Kofi back in the day one-on-one. It's going up, right? Somehow it's going up. Ivisic wants to play it's good basketball, but sometimes you got to realize you have a huge mismatch and just go take them. And that's where he's making the next stride. But I'm really impressed with how he's improved defensively, and that's true of all of them. I think Will Riley has really improved defensively. Draven Gibbs Lawhorn is such a good on-ball. He can really guard the ball. But what we're seeing from him is he's becoming better off the ball. They didn't miss – and Underwood talked about this in the post game. I don't think they were switching small on small screens. Like, it was all switch balls. They didn't miss one. Like, I don't think they had one where they actually missed one or lost a guy or whatever. In 40 minutes, in 80 possessions, to not do that's pretty impressive.
Brad, any final thoughts on that? And then I'm going to switch subjects on you guys. And you guys have no idea what I'm going to talk about.
No, I mean, I just think it was just an elite performance. Teams, they're up to 7th on Ken Palms. They're number 6 defensively, 19th offensively. I would say in the NCAA net, they may be top 5 tomorrow. They were 8th coming into today, and they may move up a couple, 2 or 3 more spots. They're in a really good spot. You're talking, if they win Saturday, they're probably going to move up, be in the top 10. You're talking 1 and 2 seed line type of team, and that bodes really well for the NCAA tournament.
Ked, any final thoughts on the basketball side?
No, I tweeted out, this team is scary good. I can't wait to see the day. I guess we saw when they played Oregon, when they're all clicking together again, because what you saw that night is what you're going to see in the NCAA tournament, hopefully at some point. I want to see them do that to a Michigan State or to a Michigan when they're playing really well. I'm happy for the team, happy for the coaches and fans. It's a great team. Enjoy it, because these teams don't come around very often.
Perfect. Yeah, this is I really believe we are, as Illini fans, we are in a great place because we got such an exciting football season, and now we're getting a basketball season. This reminds me of the 80s. I got to be truthful. I talked about the 80s belong to the Illini, and we need the 20s belong to the Illini. This looks like that same type of situation where you would have a Illini team that goes to the Rose Bowl and then an Illini team that goes to the Elite Eight or something like that. And boy, those are great years that we look back on fondly. And hopefully under Josh Whitman, they'll come around more often than they did in the past. Taterhead's going to be at Saturday's game. So Taterhead, just make your way to find Brad and Ked. They'll be down there in press row.
Yep.
Just yell Taterhead, and people will wonder what's going on. But Brad and Ked will go, oh, there's Taterhead. Let's switch over to Ked. There was a wide receiver commit 2026 from DeKalb. You want to give people a little bit of insight on what you wrote for IlliniGuys today?
Not only what I wrote, but during the game, I was interviewing him. So tomorrow, if you subscribe to IlliniGuys, you're going to get some really good quotes from this new receiver, Devon Grant, out of DeKalb, Illinois. He's a 6'4", 200-pound wide receiver who, I'll give you a little tease. Iowa and Minnesota, they were recruiting him and they were going at him really hard. But then this week he had a conversation with Brett Bielema. I'm not going to tell you what he said. You have to read about it. Brett Bielema is becoming a masterful recruiter, and he was extremely impressed with what Bielema said. And then also the fan support, the media coverage that the University of Illinois received this year all played a big impact on him. So tonight they got a big commitment from him as well. I think that was huge. Also, I was able to talk earlier today to another kid who received an offer from Illinois. His name is Javon Allison, who is out of Florida. Imagine that, a kid from Florida who's interested in Illinois. So those are things that you're going to get from Illini guys. And I'm not going to steal Brad's thunder. I'm going to let Brad Sturdy talk about who was at the game tonight and how big of a recruit this kid could be.
Yeah, one of the top football players in the state, J.C. Anderson from Mount Zion, 6'7", tight end. You know, he's considered. I think he's top 5 player in the state of Illinois and a 4-star, high 4-star player nationally. He's got offers from all over the Midwest and South in the SEC, Big Ten, Notre Dame, etc. All kinds of schools after him. He was at the game tonight. He went on a visit to Illinois before Christmas. He's been, and of course, remember, he's also a really good basketball player, so he's in season, so it makes it even harder. He's having a meeting with Bielema on Friday. I believe it's a meeting with him on Friday, and he's going to come up with a top 5 list coming up. It's not too distant future, and I do expect Illinois to be on that list. They're in a really good spot there. He's a fantastic player. Just a kid that you can line up with the tight end because he's big enough block, but also you get in the red zone, you throw it out and let him go get it. Just has that 6'7" with his length and different things. Just really impressive player and teammate of Illini incoming wide receiver Braden Trimble, who's also a receiver. But that's a big time. It's another example, and I said this the other day when we were having Mike and I were having our little last podcast. This might, I think 26 will be the best class that Bielema's brought in at Illinois.
Not only that, Brad, he is making every effort to get out to recruit these kids, and the kids. He wants the kids to know that Illinois is a place where you can go play, stay home, and do really well and compete. The one thing that Devon Grant told me tonight was that you can win at Illinois, and that he's going to help recruit other kids with him. I love when recruits tell me that. They're not just done. They're going to go get other players. They want to play with the best players in the state. They want to keep them home. Not only is Brett going out to get these kids and to get them to commit, the recruits are selling what the coaches are selling as well, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think that this is the start of something big. Brad, any other recruiting things before we let everybody go here?
I think those are the kind of the bigger ones. I think you've seen a ton of offers come through the football program of late. I think the basketball program, the weird part about this basketball program is every player is eligible to return next year. Every single player. And so and obviously we don't expect Kasparas to come back because he's going to be a top 5 pick in the draft, it looks like. So even so you say he's gone, every other player has eligibility. Are they going to find a better place than where they're at right now? And so that's one of the reasons they haven't signed. At the end of the season, they're very active with the kids from Europe, and they're going to be very active in the portal again to fill whatever they need, depending on who leaves. Although there's not a ton of news right now, most of their recruiting efforts are in Europe, and also you'll see some coaching changes too, where a guy gets fired and he's got a really great commitment, and the kid who signed with them, and these kids can leave whenever they want now. So it'll be very interesting to see what they come up with and who stays and goes, because it's hard to imagine that nobody leaves, but at the same time, you can't recruit extras, especially now with the whole roster, including walk-ons, at 15 going into next season. So it's going to be a very great offseason, and we will have a lot of portal combat at the end of this year, too. And we maybe have Euro portal combat, too.
Yeah,
so, does that work?
If there's, and we'll be there Saturday. We'll find out if there's some recruits who will be there Saturday. Hopefully, we'll know beforehand, and if so, we'll put it on our message boards for our fans to see. So, I'm assuming since it's a Saturday game, there will be a really good chance that there'll be a couple, if not one or two for sure, that should be on campus. Hopefully.
Yeah, that'll be great. I tell you what, Sturdy's driving home back to the big sturdy manor, stately sturdy manor in the middle of nowhere in Illinois. So we don't want him to be too dangerous driving and interviewing at the same time. But one of the things that we will say is IlliniGuys.com, 27 cents a day, $99 a year. This is the same that we started it when we started this on the 12th of January of 2021. We haven't raised our prices, and we would love to have more subscribers because that just allows us to have the opportunity to do a little bit better coverage. It does cost money to fly to New York and gas to go back and forth all the time to these games. And we appreciate our subscribers who help those things be accomplished. Like the main thing Ked talked about is we have the message boards where you can actually not only just read the stories, but you have the opportunity to connect with Brad, Ked, Matt, Larry, or myself and have one-on-one conversation. What did you mean by that? And why did you say that? Or I disagree with you. And we can have those type of debates. Plus, you have thousands of Illini fans from around the world that you can debate things with. And trust me, we will debate almost any subject as long as it's not politics. We talk all sorts of sports on there, so it's a lot of fun. Please make sure you take a look at that. That's the engine that runs everything. Then we have our Illini Guys Sports Spectacular radio show that's on across the state of Illinois. Go to IlliniGuys.com, hit the radio button, and you can see what station we're on and Friday or Saturday and what time. Tune in and let the station know that you enjoy our broadcast. That always helps us out as well. And of course, any of our podcasts, whether it's the Eye on the Illini, whether it's the Illini Guys Sports Spectacular, or our Big Sports Radio, or my Heat Checks and Hail Marys, or Sturdy for 30, or Ked's Recruiting Roundup, any of those that you can give us a 5-star rating and give us a review is greatly appreciated. And finally, of course, the IlliniGuys.com channel on YouTube. More subscribers there, the better. We love to have folks there as well, and make sure that you go there and you can get a lot of our videos. If you have a strong enough stomach, that's good for you. But we will be back, of course, folks. We talked about this a couple different times. We will be back with another Eye on the Illini when USC takes on Illinois Saturday at 11 a.m. You can obviously go to Champaign-Urbana, or you can catch it on the Big Ten Network. We are going to be doing a halftime live. Both Brad and Ked will be at the game, so we're working on trying to find a guest host to be on there with me. We may surprise you, so you'll want to tune into that. And of course, after the game, we will go a little bit longer between the post game with the game ending and when we start it. And we will have both Brad and Ked on, as they will both have front row seats at the game. Until then, go Illini.